during this particular time period? Or would you have liked to have seen more done by Governor Hogan?
As a conservative person, I wish I could have seen more.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a few things that happened that kind of left Republicans scratching our heads a bit. Um,
Yeah.
Most prominently, the red flag law
Yeah.
was very, very hard to take from a Republican governor. But I'm a pragmatist. He's
Mm-hmm.
a Republican governor in a very blue state with a very blue legislature. So he's not lived up to my expectations in some regards, but he's a terrific person and has done a tremendous job given the hand that he's been dealt.
Exactly. And I appreciate your candor because a lot of people wouldn't be as honest as to say that. I have said that he not necessarily was the most Republican
Mm-hmm.
governor, that he served out his particular time pretty much right down the middle,
Yes.
moderate per se, more so than leaning to the GOP. Was that beneficial to the GOP that he was straight down the middle on this and actually leaning to the left? Did that help in terms of bringing more people into the Republican Party or making it more cool to be a Republican in Maryland?
Well, I don't think it's quite yet cool to be a Republican in Maryland. I mean, we don't get chased around anymore, but
Yeah.
I think what he's done though is he brought a level of humanness to
Mm-hmm.
the party that some would have said were missing. He's definitely made it easier for minorities and women to claim the Republican Party. Being purple in a blue state is hard.
Yeah.
Being anything other than blue is hard. So by no means did he take an easy road, but I think he took the most intelligent road.
Mm-hmm.
He picked his battles fairly strategically, and he's still very popular. If Maryland's law allowed him to run for a third term, he would defeat anyone who dared challenge him without question.
Definitely. Definitely. So I ask you here, what's the future of the state of Maryland? Is Maryland ready to move to the right? Are we watching something great happening, or is this going to be a return back to the left in the next election?
I think we're seeing the beginning of something beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no one saw Larry Hogan coming. I
Yeah.
mean, Anthony Brown was the heir apparent. He had the stink on him for winning and that whole bit. But what he didn't have is the entirety of the state. He
Yes.
had what he believed to be the big five, but Maryland is a huge state outside of those few counties. Governor Hogan won the hearts and minds of Marylanders by knocking on doors the old-fashioned way on the Eastern Shore, talking to regular people. He came to Charles County a bunch, St. Mary's County, places that haven't seen an elected official unless they were asking us to pay more taxes or something in a very long time. So he made middle of the road, hardworking, everyday people feel very special. And he still does that.
Mm.
I've been fortunate enough to go to several fundraisers with him and our Lieutenant Governor, Boyd Rutherford. And I think we're in good hands. I think we have a lot of people, women especially,
Yes.
who can step into that role. And we have African-American people who can step into that role. Again, Lieutenant Governor Rutherford is probably one of the smartest policy people I've ever met in my life.
Exactly. Now,
He's tremendous.
Is there an inkling that Rutherford would like to take the helm at this point?
I think there's a little bit more than inkling. Um, you know, like there's a big bright spotlight, shining down on him. But I really and truly think that for a very long time, he's kind of been the yin to Hogan's yang,
Yes.
where Governor Hogan's the guy you'd like to go have a beer with and chill out with. Lieutenant Governor Rutherford is the guy who plans it all. He tells you what time to come, what fork to use when whatever entree comes out. He's very good at the details. He's
Yes.
well respected on both sides of the aisle. And I think one of the reasons why Hogan is so popular is that he's brought a sense of normalcy
Hmm.
in the midst of all of the Trump chaos,
Yes.
um, here in Maryland, where people are, as they say, dyed in the wool blue Democrats, the mere mention Trump just sends people off into like a
A
tangent.
tizzy.
I think Larry Hogan brought some, okay, let's take a breath here. Let's get good about opening the state up for business, making sure our schools are shored up, doing basic things, basic governance really well. I think that was his strong point. And I think having Lieutenant Governor Rutherford on that ride with him has
Yes.
given the Lieutenant Governor a little bit more momentum than anyone else who would throw their hat in the ring.
Is he charismatic enough to do Hagerstown, Annapolis, and Baltimore?
I think he's getting there.
Okay.
I saw him most recently at the Maryland Black Republican Council legislative reception in Annapolis last week,
Yes.
and he was a surprise speaker, and he was extraordinarily animated.
Wow.
He talked about the HBCU lawsuit, and he spoke from a position of power, and he didn't do it in a mean-spirited way. You know how some people overshoot a little bit?
Yes.
He was still very much buoyed, but
Mm-hmm.
he was much more definitive in his language. He smiled, he was animated, he gave the crowd a little bit of a cheeky show. And we're all sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute, I might have you a candidate.
It would
So
be it would
I
be
think he's
great
going
to
to do
have a man of great reason
it. Mhm.
in office, but one of the detractions to that has always been that pragmatism is not popular.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the great things about Donald Trump is that he's popular
Mhm.
and has been effectual in terms of managing in governance. And I want to ask you in this regard, and this is why I appreciate you coming on the program often during the election season, is because you're real, you're honest. There are individuals out there who understand that Donald Trump, no matter what happens in the U.S. Senate, will be the next president of the United States of America. He will be serving another term. Will the next governor do a better job of connecting with the White House on matters of policy as and appropriations for the state of Maryland?
No.
Wow.
And I say that definitively. Absolutely not.
Oh,
I don't think there's anyone, at least on my radar, that here in Maryland would make that statement publicly.
mm,
It is political suicide.
wow.
Just so as chairman, I had a chance to appoint the people who are going to run my Trump Pence 2020 victory campaign,
Yes.
and I picked very strong business leaders, well respected, well rounded, lots of political experience. Bill Dotson, Katie Stickle, and Norris Haynes, former NFLer, really strong Christian values, good guy. And when I posted that, I got more inbox messages going, why would you do that to them? Why would you say that they're going to be in charge of this? It's political suicide. And I'm thinking, no, they're Republicans. And he's a
Yes.
Republican president, and to a person, we're all better off today than we were 4 years ago.
Certainly. Certainly.
Without question. Without question. You
Now,
know,
because I know that the people don't necessarily uh, understand that we are Republicans, that we're conservatives. Um, but case in point, you are the chairwoman of a central committee. Um, you are an African American prominent leader, a healthcare uh, advocate. How is it that people are not seeing you in a light that could be better for the state? Okay, this is just me. I'm thinking lieutenant governor, moving in that direction, someone who can draw the light of not only conservatism but also make that inroad to the White House. Why aren't they reaching for you in this regard?
I think for a lot of reasons, Maryland has this long legacy of wait your turn.
Ah,
And it's true. And a lot of Republican places have that. We're orderly people. It's who we are by nature, right?
Yes.
Every now and again, you get a wild card like Hogan. It comes out of the woodwork, so to speak, who kind of takes everything by storm. I love the position I'm in.
Yes.
I love a good campaign. I like being, the muscle for a really great candidate.
Yes.
It is something that excites me greatly. Now, I have a very lucrative career in healthcare.
Yes.
I recently named the chairwoman of my professional organization. So I've got a lot of regular things going on, but I really enjoy that part of my life with politics, kind of being the girl with the baseball bat.
It's
Kneecapping other candidates.
exactly. See, but that's what I'm thinking. This is my thinking, and I'm not much of a political strategist, winkety wink. But if you're going to be, Boyd Rutherford, you're going to need someone with a little, you know, muscle behind you that's going to get the job done down in Annapolis. I can't think of a better person than you in terms of having the chairwoman experience. I want to talk with you very quickly in terms of, because I don't want to run out of time. I have a lot of questions for you tonight regarding the state of Maryland, regarding the city of Baltimore.
Yes.
I literally believe that is a complete and utter failure under the Hogan administration. And because they're responsible for the police, there wasn't a plan of action after 8 years of moving towards the city taking over the police. Economic development isn't there. Unemployment still high. You still have the drug crisis, and it is if it were a third world country, it would be referred to as a S-hole country.
Yes.
Baltimore City is a terrible place. Even a place where a mayoral candidate at 1 o'clock in the morning is pulled over by the police for driving without his lights on with a woman that he just picked up. So I'm going to say Democrat corruption. Hogan didn't help. Am I right in this regard in my assessment?
I think, again, Baltimore has been an issue for the state of Maryland for a long time. This is not a new problem with Baltimore. It's not like, there was a heyday 4 years ago and it just kind of taken a steady drop. Baltimore's current state is due to willful, long-term neglect. And there is no one answer to that. Could the governor have done more? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could our legislature have done more?
Yes.
Without question. Could their own leadership have done more? Don't even get me started. Helmut Holly's going to jail. Do you know what I mean? So there are a lot of fingers to point at blame, but there are so many bright shining lights. I had a chance to do some volunteer work there, a couple of neighborhood cleanups, that type of thing. It's impressive to me that when you live in a city where people are saying, oh, you guys are the armpit of the whole state. If we could put a fence, if we could build a wall, it'd be around you. You know what I mean?
Quarantine.
There's still right. There's still such a sense of pride among the people who live there, and rightfully so. I am originally from Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And I lived in Pittsburgh, grew up in Pittsburgh after the steel mill shut down, before the tech came.
Yes.
So, that's when they say the city was kind of asleep. Well, it wasn't asleep. The same people lived there. We did the same things, but industry changed. So there was a point in time when we had to make a decision as a group. Do we retrain for a future, or do we hold on to these vestiges of the past? This is the question that's fronting Baltimore now. Yes. Do we continue to elect the same type of people who are going to continue to drag us through the mud at every single turn, or are we going to try something new? Because as a behavioral health specialist, I'll tell you, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, insanity.
Exactly. Now,
textbook definition.
Quite frankly, what I would love to see is someone reaching out to the Republicans who are running for mayor post in that particular city, helping in terms of outlining the differences, radiating or enlightening people in Baltimore that there are other options. Now, there's one I have a favor for, but I don't ask you to have a favor for Shannon Wright, who has run. There you go. Who's running for office? Um, but I got to ask you, what should the next mayor of Baltimore be like? What do we see? Should that person be having privileges with the police where they don't get tickets, or
Uh,
are they being pulled over with a prostitute? Well, I'm not gonna. Well, I don't know if it's a prostitute, but 1 o'clock in the morning, you're not taking a
sex
tour.
worker,
Yeah,
right?
you're not taking a tour of Baltimore at 1 o'clock in the morning with someone with the lights off. um, Michael, Mayor Young, just as corrupt. The whole city is just, it's a Gotham. What do you do to change Gotham?
The first thing you do is you get yourself some strong, quiet, competent leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to harp on my friend Shannon Wright.
Yes.
As you may know, she's definitely a friend of mine.
Yes.
I was the first African American woman in Maryland's history to lead a central committee. And
Yes.
then 2 months later, she was right behind me.
Yes.
So we share a kindred spirit for that. But Shannon is like a quiet storm.
Yes.
She's not the rah-rah person. She's not going to come in with a broom and say, we're going to, knock all the cobwebs or drain the swamp. But what she will do is bring integrity to a
Yes.
government that has never had it.
Exactly.
There's no two ways around with her. I've had personal conversations with her about decisions I had to make in my life and wanting to take shortcuts. And she listens intently and she's like, right, but that's not what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Exactly.
what? That's what I wanted to do. But she really does hold your feet to a fire morally. I don't think there's anyone else in the race that can match her point to point. She has a very serious plan to build this city again. Some people will say it needs to be burned down to the ground and start fresh. But I will tell you, it's already on fire.
Really?
It's already on fire. I mean, when the murder rate is so high that we're not even alarmed anymore when people are murdered. It's
Wow.
not alarming. When they're
Wow.
murdering mothers who have businesses, who are contributing to the community, and people are like, another Saturday night,
Exactly.
it's problematic. And when your leadership does that, that's really where you have a problem. When your life means nothing to your elected leaders, that's when you need to sit down and start doing things differently.
Exactly. Now, Hagerstown, I just want to mention the fact that Loudoun and Frederick County in Virginia, because of the attack on the Second Amendment, have been invited to join the state of West Virginia. Well, Hagerstown has also been given that quiet invitation to
Mhm.
be represented in a state that holds its values and opinions. The people in the Western Maryland feel absolutely isolated from the Annapolis Baltimore regime. The Democrats have literally just wasted Western Maryland. What say you? What should Western Maryland do? What can the state do with the census coming up to give better representation to Western Maryland?
Well,
Not going to
after the
happen.
census. No, well, I'm trying to be, positive here, put a spin on this. After the census, when we have some redistricting, hopefully cooler heads will prevail. I know Governor Hogan is working towards something that's going to be good for all of the people of Maryland.
Yes.
But with that said, the Eastern Shore of Maryland and Western Maryland are largely neglected.
Yes.
And again, Hogan was probably the first politician who came there and said, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to rebuild these roads and bridges so you're connected to the rest of the state. Let's start there.
Yeah.
And we're going to stop pretending like you're a redhead stepchild in the family.
Mm-hmm.
But culturally, again, being from Pennsylvania, who doesn't love West Virginia? Wild and wonderful, right? It's like our own little Texas. It's a
Exactly.
beautiful. But Hagerstown, I think, has a unique personality and feel to it.
Yes.
Very much like the Eastern Shore does. Some pieces of Southern Maryland still have that feel, and I call it old Maryland,
Yes.
where people just kind of want to live and mind their business, pay their taxes and raise their children. Unfortunately, the progressives from the more urban areas are pushing this agenda. And this agenda is saying pay more in taxes so we can pay administrators more money. Let's not be really serious and thoughtful when it comes to our budgeting process. All the things that don't make sense to us.
Yes.
Hopefully, the redistricting will give us bigger voice. So we just won't be yelling into the wind.
Will the Democrats give up power to Western and Eastern Maryland and Southern Maryland? No.
No.
Thank you. No.
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Listen, I have it on really good authority. Deb Ray was the delegate from one of the delegates from St. Mary's County, and she lost her seat to a Democrat who ran as a soldier. He was going to be moderate, middle of the road, yada, yada, yada. And of course, he's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Democrat DNC state chair comes down and she says, "What's going on? Why don't we own this place?"
Yeah.
In St. Mary's County. Now, Charles, the takeover it has happened. We're here and we're living through it the best way we know how. We're going to put up some candidates that are in for the fight, and we're hoping for the best. We have Doug Sayre, who's decided to throw his hat in to run against Steny Hoyer for District 5 seat. And he's a tremendous human being.
Yes.
And if he were a Democrat, there would be T-shirts with his name on it, but because he's true to his values and a conservative man, we're going to have to push really hard for Doug.
Exactly.
They are a machine here.
Exactly.
Without question. They're not giving it up over their cold, dead, lifeless bodies. They're not
exactly.
Giving it up.
And you know what? They would even offer that to keep power. Ladies.
Sure. Dinner with Bernie's, they just prop their dead bodies up.
Right there. Vote twice. Nicole, you have a huge job, and publicly I will say this: I think that you would make a tremendous lieutenant governor, in my own opinion, because of your beliefs and as well your insights on healthcare and what the next generation of Maryland should be like. I hope, winkety wink, that people in the GOP in Maryland are listening. You need a good sidearm for what you got to do in terms of Baltimore, changing it. But how can people help and assist you and your candidates in the Central Committee in Charles County?
So one of the things that I'm doing now is fundraising, and very targeted fundraising. When Trump ran in 2016, it was very hard for us to keep signs, like yard signs, signs on the side of the road. They were vandalized at an alarming rate.
Yes.
So it became cost prohibitive to replace them all in a timely fashion. So what I've started to do, chairmen raise money. That's one of the things that chairmen do, is raising money to make sure that if they tear a sign down, we can replace it immediately while we're going through the enforcement process to make sure that people who are damaging our property are prosecuted. It's been very contentious here in Charles. I'm sure a lot of your followers don't know this, but during our last election cycle, they had the ACLU here. They called it the ACLU on us. There was a woman who was almost viciously attacked by someone who sat on the Democrat Central Committee. One of my candidates literally had papers stolen out of his pocket from someone who is associated with the Democrat Central Committee. And I'm not saying that's all of them, but there are people who are fanatics, for lack of a better term, on both sides. I mean, everybody has their fringe, but we don't want to not have representation for Trump 2020. When one sign goes down, I want to be in a place to prop another one right up. We don't want to lose any ground.
Exactly. Nicole, this won't be the last time during this election year that you're on the air with us tonight. Maryland, if you really want to do something great for your state, you would make her lieutenant governor. I'm just saying.
My gosh.
um, in all
Hope my boss
seriousness,
isn't watching straight.
I think your boss would appreciate you being lieutenant governor.
My boss is a rabid Democrat. He really is. I mean, a crazy rabid Democrat. He and all of his friends, all of his doctor friends, are all rabid Democrats. So when he has lunches and dinners with his friends, they walk past my office and go, "It's a unicorn. It's a black Republican." What
We
can I
will
do?
support you and encourage you along the way. Nicole, we thank you so much for spending time with us this particular evening on the issues of Maryland, and as well being a health advocate, letting America know that we should not be overly worried about the coronavirus.
Yeah,
We'll be
no
just fine.
panic. Yes, we have the resources necessary to protect our populace.
Yeah,
Make no mistake.
we're not China. We don't have to quarantine a whole city.
Not never here. Not never. Not who we are.
God bless you. We will talk with you soon. Ladies and
You too, sir.
gentlemen, what a tremendous honor to have the opportunity to talk with Chairwoman Charles County Republican Central Committee in Maryland, Nicole Bennett. You can find her on Twitter at ccgop.chairman, ccgop.chairman. We will be back with more of the best right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Louis Giglio, and I'm sitting here with my sister Gina. We're talking about our dad, whose name also was Louis Giglio, and how in 1964 he created the Chick-fil-A logo.
I remember the first time I saw it, I was 7. It was on the drawing board in his office. I said, "That's really cute."